Let's start with the kinetic theory of gases. So kinetic theory is a theory which is used mainly for understanding about the gases. How do they move? What is the average kinetic energy of the particles? What is the RMS velocity of the particles? How is the temperature and pressure measured for the gas particles? So kinetic theory is quite important, and it is a microscopic description. That is, in kinetic theory we focus on the small objects, small particles. Kinetic theory of gases was developed by Maxwell and Boltzmann, James Clerk Maxwell and Boltzmann, Ludwig Boltzmann. So, according to this theory, that and also one important thing, kinetic theory was developed when there was no knowledge of the existence of the atoms. So, this is before the proof of the theory of atom. It was given before the theory of proof of the theory of atom, that is before 1890s. So this is in itself is a very initial subject of study. Remember that n is n will be representing, small n will be representing number of moles, and sometimes it is represented by mu, so do not get confused with either of the symbols. Now first of all, the atomic and molecular nature of matter was proposed in India and in Greece about 2005 years ago. In India, Maharshi Kanad was there, and in Greece, Democritus was there. So Maharshi Kanad called it Parmanu, Democritus called it Atomos. So according to them, everything is made up of this smallest particles called the everything is made up of the smallest particles called Parmanu or atoms. But there was also one more theory which was popular during the most of the time, that five element theory was there, that everything is made up of five elements. So this theory of atom was not accepted initially. It is quite recent that we have accepted the theory of atom. It or not it is only around 100 to 150 years that we have studied about atoms and the theory of atoms and accepted the theory of atom. Before that, five element theory was the most famous one. So according to it, everything is composed of five elements, usually earth, fire, air, ether and water. So after this, John Dalton, after the this initial proposition of atomic theory, nothing much happened in the theory of atoms. But then in 1800s, uh, teacher called John Dalton came, and he again revived the idea of atom, and he proposed that everything is composed of atoms. So ultimately, there were a lot of things that were discovered, and then after that, the theory of atom was revived. So now let's move on to the main topic, that is our kinetic theory of gases. So to understand kinetic theory of gases, we need to first understand the concept of ideal gas and then the postulates of kinetic theory of gases. So an ideal gas is any ideal gas which strictly follows Boyle's law, Charles' law, etc. We will understand about these laws in a while. Then ideal gas has molecules which are infinitesimally small. That is, the molecules of any ideal gas are very, very, very tiny. And then there is no force of attraction between the molecules of the ideal gas. Let's say this is a container in which we have ideal gas. So if we have multiple particles of ideal gas here, so the force of attraction between them must be equal to 0. That is, they must not apply any force on each other, and also their size must be very, very, very small. So this is ideal gas. Now what are the postulates of KTG? So first, according to KTG, every gas is composed of minute particles which are called molecules or atoms. Then second postulate is all molecules of gas are rigid, perfectly elastic, solid spheres and identical. So that is, if we have oxygen gas, then all the molecules of oxygen gas will be identical. They will be spherical in shape, and they will be rigid, that is, their shape size will not change, and they will be perfectly elastic, which means we know that the particles move, and when they move they will collide with each other. So when they collide elastically, that is, there is no loss of kinetic energy. Then molecules move in random direction, they have random motion, and they all move with all possible velocity in all possible directions. The velocities can range from 0 to infinity. Obviously infinity is not possible, 0 to some high value. So all the molecules in the gas move randomly in all possible directions with all possible velocities. They collide with each other and also with the walls, and the collision is perfectly elastic. As I told you, that is kinetic energy is conserved. Apart from that, the density of gas is same everywhere. That is, let's say if this is a container, then the density will be same everywhere. It is not that more particles will be here and less particles will be here. Everywhere the density will be same, number of particles will be same. Molecules will not exert force of attraction in each other, and collision is instantaneous. It does not when the two particles collide with each other, it happens instantaneously. It is not. So molecules travel in straight lines between collision, and collision is instantaneous, which means that there is no time interval which pass when the two particles are close to each other. They collide instantaneously. So these are the postulates of kinetic theory of gas, and this is the definition of ideal gas. Let us now discuss three very important laws which are followed by ideal gas, or when we study kinetic theory of gas, these laws are followed by the gas. So first law is that when the temperature is constant, if temperature is constant, then the product of pressure and volume is also constant. So here what is constant? Temperature is constant. So when the temperature is constant, then we have this equation which tells us that pressure and volume's product is a constant, and pressure is inversely proportional to volume, and this law is called the Boyle's law. So let's say this is the graph, quite simple graph. So when we have this type of relation, inverse relationship, then rectangular hyperbola is obtained. So this is volume, this is pressure. So the relation between volume and pressure is a rectangular hyperbola. As volume increase, the pressure decrease. And this is T1, T2, T2. For T3, for different temperatures we have three different curves. So T3 is greater than T2, and which is greater than T1. So more the temperature, more will be the pressure at the same volume. Okay, if temperature is more, then the pressure will be more at that same volume. So this is the first graph. Now let's say if we plot the graph between 1 by V and pressure, so it is quite simple. Pressure is directly proportional to 1 by V. So there will be a linear graph like this. And this graph is called isotherm. This graph is called isotherm, that is graph when the temperature is constant. Isotherm, that means temperature is constant. Now what happens if pressure is constant? So if pressure is constant, then V over T is a constant, and V is directly proportional to temperature. So this law is called the Charles law. So again quite simple, temperature, volume, so their relation is linear, so the lines will be straight lines. This is absolute temperature, we cannot go beyond, we cannot go less than this temperature. So P1, P3, P2, so P1 is greater, the P3 is greater than P2 is greater than P1. So for higher pressure we will have more temperature at the same at less volume, and for lower pressure we will have less temperature at higher volume. Now Gay-Lussac's law, when volume is constant, if volume is constant, then in that case what happens is that pressure over time is a constant term, or pressure is directly proportional to temperature. So again the same graph will be there, temperature and pressure, and V1, V2, V3. So if volume is more, then for the same pressure temperature will be more. So these are three important laws. So ideal gas is a gas which follow all these three laws. So any gas which follows all these three laws is called an ideal gas. By the way, this graph is called isobar because pressure is constant, and this graph is called isochord because volume is constant. Let's just quickly go through two terms. One is relaxation time and one is mean free path. So whenever the particles are there, they are moving with each other. Okay, they are moving with each other. So when they move along each other, so they will collide also. So relaxation time is the time interval between two collisions. So it is a time during which the particle is like relaxing, it is not colliding. So let's say the particle is here, and after let's say 5 seconds it reach this point and collide with a particle over here. So this 5 seconds will be the relaxation time. and mean free path is the average path traversed by molecule between two collisions. So between two collision, let's say the path here is 2 centimeter, the path here is let's say after this it goes here, so the path here is 1 centimeter. So the average path between two collisions is called the mean free path. So now we will understand about pressure using kinetic theory of gas. So what is pressure? So most of the space in a gas is empty. So according to kinetic theory of gas, the pressure exerted by the particles of any gas is due to their momentum. So more the momentum, more will be the pressure exerted by the particle on the wall. So pressure is due to the momentum of the particles which are colliding. So pressure is, we know, force upon area, and force can be rate of change of momentum, dp over dt. And let's say velocity is in x, y and z direction are vx, vy, vz, and area is a equal to l square. So let's only consider x axis. So according to conservation of momentum, we will have minus 2 mvx. So ultimately the pressure will come out to be n mvx, where n is the number of moles, m is the mass of the particle, vx is the average velocity in x direction. And similarly, if you talk about RMS velocity, you can take this value v square bar. Remember, RMS value is obtained when we square, then take the mean, and then take the root value. Remember, one important thing is that the RMS velocities in all the direction x, y and z directions are same. So the overall velocity, overall RMS velocity can be 1 by 3 over the RMS velocity in the x direction can be overall velocity over 3, which means it is 1/3 of the overall velocity. And pressure can be written as nm v bar square over 3. So overall velocity square and then divided by 3. So this is the formula for pressure in kinetic theory of gas. Now there are three types of velocities that we were discussing, so let's discuss about them in detail. So first is the average velocity, second is the RMS velocity, and third is the most probable velocity. So average velocity is simple, it is the average of all the velocities. Okay, average velocity can sometimes come out to be 0, because if the particles are moving in all directions, so the average velocity will be 0. Now root mean square is a value which we obtain when we first square the velocity, then take the mean, and then take the square root of the velocity, so that we get the same effect. So first squaring, then taking the mean, and then taking the square root. And most probable velocity is the velocity with which most of the particles at a given temperature are traveling. So it is the velocity possessed by the maximum number of molecules. So the formula for average, RMS and most probable velocities is given by this formula, okay, where k is the Boltzmann constant, T is the temperature, pi is pi, and m is the mass of the particles, mass of one molecule, okay. And if we use capital M, it will be the mass of 1 mole. 1 mole means 6.022 into 10 to the power 23 particles. So this is for one molecule, and if we have 1 mole particles, then this formula will be used, 8 RT over pi into capital M. This is the mass of 1 mole of particles. So remember this. So if you notice, RMS velocity is the highest, then average velocity, and the slowest or the least velocity is the most probable velocity. You can remember this by RAM, okay, RMS, average and most probable. Now let's, after discussing pressure, let's discuss about temperature and kinetic theory of gas. So we discussed that pressure can be given by this formula. Now we know that let's multiply V on both the sides, so PV is this, and we know that PV is equal to nRT. So once we simplify this, we get PV equal to 2 by 3 E, and PV is equal to nRT, n or mu, as I told you, sometimes n, sometimes mu, one and the same thing. So energy will be equal to 3 by 2 nu RT or 3 by 2 kB NT. So this is the average kinetic energy. This is the average kinetic energy, which is 3 by 2 kB T. T is the absolute temperature, kB is the Boltzmann constant, 3 by 2 is a constant value. So as I told you, what is temperature? Temperature is the average kinetic energy of the molecules or the particles. Temperature is the average kinetic energy of the particles. So this is the temperature and kinetic theory of gas. Now there is this Maxwell distribution function which is quite interesting. It tells us about the number of particles moving with different velocities at different temperatures. So let's say we have temperature T1, which is the least temperature, so the graph looks like this. So most of the particles are moving with this velocity. This is the most probable velocity, this is velocity, and this graph tells us about the number of particles moving with that velocity. So if you notice, particles with very less and very high velocities are very low. Very few particles are moving with less and high velocity. Most of the particles are moving with this velocity, therefore it is called the most probable velocity. As we increase the temperature, the graph will go down and it will shift toward right. The area must remain same because the area tells us about the total number of particles. As the total number of particles remains same, so the area of the graph must remain same. So as temperature increases, the graph shifts towards downside and in the rightward direction. So the most probable velocity now is higher because the temperature is more, and for even more temperature the most probable velocity will be even higher. Now law of equipartition of energy is quite simple. According to this law, at any temperature T, the energy is equally distributed in all the axes, x axis, y axis and z axis. So all the energy is equally distributed in all three axes. Now kinetic energy is usually, as we discussed, is 3/2 kBt. So this means that in x direction it will be half kBt, in y direction half kBt, in z direction half kBt. So this is the linear velocity, linear kinetic energy, but we know that motion can be translational, rotational or vibrational. So there can be rotational kinetic energy, there can be vibrational kinetic energy. So there are three kinetic energies, and in all the kinetic energies, x and y and z axes are equal distribution of energy. Now let's discuss about the formula for mean free path. So mean free path is, as I told you, it is the path between average path between two successive collisions. So it is given by this formula. The mean free path is given by this formula, L equal to 1/√2 n pi d square, where d is the diameter of the tube or the container, distance between the, or diameter of the molecule, let's say the diameter of the molecule, and pi is pi and n is the number of moles, and also rate of time period, relaxation time is given by this formula, okay, where this is the average velocity. So these two formulas are also quite important. Let us now discuss about a few terms. So terms like boiling, evaporation, meaning of a vapor, humidity, etc. So first, what is a vapor? So when we have a temperature above which a behavior, above which the pressure is very less, force of attraction is very less, almost negligible, and volume is very high, then this is called the critical temperature. Of the substance, and a gas below the critical temperature, that is below the temperature in which it it is showing these properties below critical temperature is called a vapor. So gas which is not showing the properties like this is called a vapor. So vapor is this situation. Now now let's discuss about two important terms, evaporation and boiling. So this is quite interesting, evaporation and boiling. So let's say boiling and evaporation. So let's take two examples. So let's say we have a container, and in this container we have let's say water, and we are boiling this water. Boiling means we are heating this water from the downward direction like this. And let's say we have another situation in which we have water that let's say it is a lake or a sea or a river, any water reservoir, and we have sun over here, and the sun is emitting its heat. Sun is emitting the heat, and the heat energy of sun is coming to the water. Now what happens in these two situations is that in boiling the molecules will get heated up from the downward side. These molecules will get heated up first, and in evaporation the upper molecules, the surface molecules, will get heated up first. So what will happen is that here the molecules will have to go out of the let's say the whole material by passing through many layers. But here molecules will go out from the surface itself. So what is happening is that in boiling these molecules will have to move up, and they will collide with other particles, and when they will collide with other particles they will transfer some of their energy to those particles. So they will require a lot of time in order to achieve a situation in which they have sufficient energy to go out of the material. But here the molecules will get heated up, they will get sufficient energy, and they will straight go out of the surface. So in boiling, because of that, the boiling happens at higher temperature and evaporation occurs at low temperature. Do you know that boiling temperature of water at normal pressure is 100 degrees Celsius? But when the rivers and lakes are there, when they dry up, so is there a temperature everywhere 100 degrees Celsius? No, the temperature is around 35-40 degrees Celsius. So why does the lake dry up then? Because evaporation does not require so high temperature. It can happen at lower temperature, because what is happening is that the surface particles are getting the sufficient energies at 30 degree 40 degrees Celsius, and they are moving out. So that is the difference between boiling and less temperature is required. The difference between boiling and evaporation. Boiling is a bulk phenomena. Evaporation is a surface phenomena. There is another term called humidity. So the amount of water vapor present in air, present in a unit volume of air, is called absolute humidity. Absolute humidity of air. But there is another term called relative humidity. So relative humidity is given by amount of water vapor in a given volume of air at a given temperature with respect to amount of water vapor required to saturate the same volume of air at the same temperature. What does this mean? This means, let's take one example. So let's take an example. Let's say the temperature is 30 degrees Celsius and we are talking about 1 meter cube volume of air. Now at 30 degrees Celsius, maximum water vapor that can be put in this 1 meter cube of volume of air, it is just a number, okay, is let's say 20 gram. Okay, now if this is the maximum possible amount of water vapor that you can put in 1 meter cube of air at 30 degrees Celsius. Remember, this is just a number for reference. This is not exact or correct. So let's say if only 10 gram of H2O vapor is present, so then what will be the relative humidity of air? So this means the relative humidity will be 10 gram over 20 gram, that is 1 by 2, that is 0.5, that is in percentage it will be 50%. That this relative humidity is 50%. It means that the air contains 50% of its capacity of water. It can have 10 gram more water, but it only has half of the water that it can maximum it can have. So that is relative humidity. Now at last, let's discuss about the triple point. So most famously, triple point of water is discussed. So what is a triple point? Triple point is the temperature and pressure at which all the three states of matter, that is solid, liquid, gas, can coexist. For example, at 0 degrees Celsius and 1 atmospheric pressure, water exists as liquid and solid both at 0 degrees Celsius. It can be either liquid, it can be either solid, both are possible. So similarly, there are some temperature and pressure values at which all the three states can be at the same time. So the graph looks like something like this for water. So this is temperature, this is pressure. So the graph looks something like this. So the pressure at which this happens, that all these states are possible, is 4.58 mm of mercury, and the temperature at which this happens is 273.16 Kelvin, in other words 0 degree Celsius. So this is for water. So for water, triple point occurs when the temperature is 0 degree Celsius and the pressure is 4.58 mm of mercury. Similarly, for the case of CO2, the pressure and temperatures are a bit different. the pressure is 5.11 atmospheric pressure and the temperature is 216.55 Kelvin. This is for CO2. So triple point is a point at which all the three states can coexist together, and it is possible at certain temperatures and pressure, just like we have boiling point, melting point, etc. So just like that, triple point is also there.